Anatomy. It's Miss Satterley. We're going to talk about the branches of anatomy. So let's start off with what anatomy is. Anatomy is the study of internal and external structure and the physical relationship between body parts. Anatomy itself is only going to look at the actual physical structure of organs. Now, physiology is a counterpart to that, and that's why our class is usually called anatomy and physiology, because we look at both structure and function. But physiology is the study of how living organisms perform vital functions. There are different branches of both anatomy and physiology that we're going to talk about today. So the two branches of anatomy include microscopic and macroscopic. Microscopic makes me think of microscope. The prefix micro actually means small. So these deal with structures that cannot be seen without magnification. Macroscopic is also called gross anatomy. And that is the type of anatomy or branches of anatomy that deal with features visible with the unaided eye. Cytology. Cytology is the study of cells. The prefix cyto actually means cell. Cytologists are going to focus on analyzing internal structure of individual cells. So this is going to be a type of microscopic anatomy because you need a microscope in order to look at cells. Histology is next. Histology is the study of tissues. Tissues, again, are groups of specialized cells and cell products that work together to form specific functions. I talk about tissues and the levels of organisms. Now, this is actually a picture of a type of tissue. Those are simple cuboidal cells. And we'll get into that starting at the end of next week. Before I move on, histology is also a type of microscopic anatomy. Next, let's look at macroscopic or gross anatomy branches. Surface anatomy is first. Surface anatomy is the study of general form and superficial markings. So there are parts of your body that you can visibly see through the skin. You know the location of your clavicle. If you look at the back of your neck, you can see your trapezius. Your sternum is in the center of your chest. And there's other features that you can see as well. Next one is regional anatomy. Regional anatomy is going to focus on a specific region, such as the head or neck. Now, there's some specialists, such as an ear, nose, and throat specialist, that are more regional anatomists. So they focus on anything that's in the head structure. Next one is systemic anatomy. Systemic anatomy should be easy to remember because systemic has the word system in it. So therefore, a systemic anatomist is going to look at structure of organ systems. 2 examples of organ systems include skeletal and muscular, but there's also 10 others. And in the picture here, we have a picture of the cardiovascular system. Next one is developmental anatomy. Developmental anatomy examines the changes in form that occur during the period of conception to physical maturity. So that's going to cover a large span of time. So from when an organism or an embryo is starting to develop all the way until they hit maturity, which is about the age of 12 to 13, depending. Next one is embryology. Embryology is going to be focused only on the early developmental processes. So it's going to be related to developmental anatomy, but it's actually just a smaller branch of it. It's going to be the first 2 months of development. That's what an embryologist is going to focus on. And in the picture here, we have some pictures of different embryos at different stages. Now, next is medical anatomy. Medical anatomy might make you think of a doctor. So it'll help you remember what medical anatomy means. It's anatomical features that change during illness. So all of your organs are going to change if you get sick. There's different things that will happen. And a medical anatomist, which we call doctors, are going to focus on those changes to try to help you get better. Next one is a radiographic anatomy. Radiographic anatomy is going to be the branch of anatomy that studies structures that are seen during using specialized image techniques. The picture here is a type of X-ray. X-ray is not the only type of radiographic that you can use. MRI is also a part, and so is CAT scans. Now, all of these work together, though, because they help you see the internal structures of a living organism without cutting into them. Next one is surgical anatomy. Surgical anatomy is the branch of anatomy that studies anatomical landmarks that are important in surgery. So this is going to be more internal. So if you have a surgeon, they're going to be a type of surgical anatomist, where they're going to have to know these features, especially if they're working on the surgery on an individual. Now let's look at physiology. Again, physiology is the study of functions of anatomical structures. It attempts to determine the physical and chemical processes responsible for vital functions. Now, the first one I want to talk about is cell physiology. Cell physiology should be easy to remember because it's a study of functions of living cells, and its cell is in the name. Now, it's going to focus on the events that are both the chemical and molecular level within the cell. Next one is special physiology. Special physiology is the study of physiology of specific organs. So you need to remember that special goes with specific organs, and special and specific both start with the same letters, so maybe that's a way to remember. So in the picture here, we have a picture of the kidney, which is a type of organ in the urinary system, and then we have a picture of the heart, which is in the cardiovascular system. Next one is systemic physiology. Again, systemic goes with system. So a systemic physiologist is going to study all aspects of the functions of a specific organ system. Now, you have systemic physiologists that specialize, and we have cardiologists and other branches of physiologists that actually study those body systems. Last one is the pathological physiology. Pathological, have you ever heard of the term pathologist? A pathologist is an individual that does autopsies. Commonly, they're called coroners. And a pathologist is going to look at an individual that has recently died and try to determine what caused that. And that's because they specialize in pathological physiology, which is the study of effects of diseases on organs or system functions, so they can determine what caused death. So that's the last branch of anatomy that we're going to talk about. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.